Hello,
Hi, I'm calling for Matthew.
this is he.
Hi, this
Hold
is
on
Ra-
1 second.
Okay.
All right. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. I have terrible internet, and the phone is ran through the internet, so I have to cut everything off.
Okay. Sorry if you can
Uh,
barely hear me. My kids are being really loud.
I can't hear them.
Okay. So you said that you wanted to clear some things up, or
Well, yeah, just I think like the background of the entire situation, right? Like I can give the perspective of Katelyn's life from the get-go, right? And exactly how all of that devolved into the situation that everybody's seen on the internet, right? Because it's not like that just happened overnight. It was an escalation of things that you just get snippets, right? Like, oh, the biological father was arrested for not paying child support, so automatically must be a shitty father. Which may be the case sometimes, but it's just not the case all the time. And there are a lot of things that have happened that just isn't out there, right? There's no way for anybody to know unless they talk to me or my family, right? Because you're not going to get this information anywhere else.
right? Well, what hasn't been put out there that contributed to her? Because, like, honestly, my dad was absent in my life, and I related to Caitlin when she said that she saw you in a store and that you didn't say anything to her. And I believe Caitlin, and I've experienced that with my dad. And I know that if I were to kill myself, my dad would be doing what you're doing and wanting to reach out to people to clear his name. As, like, I
Well,
don't
I'm
know.
not reaching out to clear my name because I don't give a damn what people think about me. That's not the case, right? The case is that I was kept out of her life by her mother, and not just me, but my entire family.
And see, that's what my dad says about me too, though. But, like, he made no real effort. He just blamed my mom. And I'm sorry, like, Caitlin.
Her stepdad threatened me with violence, right? So that is the game changer for me. Period. You don't. I mean, it's nonsensical. But you're not even talking. Take that out of the picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
They deleted my phone number and everybody in my family's phone number from Katelyn's cell phone that I bought her. And everything that I bought my daughter, they turned around and sold at the pawn shop. They literally kept her away from me and my entire family.
May I ask why? What was Tammy's reason for that? Not saying she had a reason, but I'm just curious.
Well, when you're abusing a child, you probably don't want the child going around telling people.
Are you talking about, like, her drugs and her negligence?
At the bare minimum.
Was she?
I mean, there's still a criminal investigation going on, right?
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm very, very glad to hear that.
There's a multitude of crimes that were committed. Multitude. The charge sheet is liable to be 3 or 4 pages long by the time this hits the DA's office.
Are her siblings still with Tammy? Because that's very concerning.
As far as I know, I don't talk to Tammy. She showed up at my house twice after the funeral. And the second time, she showed up here asking me if I had a gun. right? I mean, this is just, she is the type of person that will play the victim no matter what her actions are.
Yeah, you don't have to convince
and
me.
as far as Katelyn saying that she saw me at Walmart, I don't know anything about that. I didn't see my daughter out and about in Walmart and then not go approach her. Like, that's not something I would do.
Yeah.
So if she saw me and I didn't see her, there's nothing I can do about that, right? I don't know what she was talking about, but I've not even watched her videos because I can't do it. Like, I just can't do it. I can't watch those videos because I know, everybody in my family knows, I was demonized. My family was demonized. That's what she was told, right? Every day.
Who, Katelyn?
Yes.
I just want to say I'm really sorry, first of all. It's having you even contact me is like, I feel a closeness to Katelyn, but at the same time, it's like when I first got
That's what I'm saying. I can give you the story from the get-go, not from a year ago, but from 12, 13 years ago, right? And how all of this has escalated up to the point of, her taking her life. This is not something that happened again overnight. This is the course of her being abused mentally for a long time.
I'm
so much so that when I was at Fort Bragg and they were living with me at Fort Bragg, my chain of command kicked Tammy off the base.
Wow. Hold on. I want to tell my kids to lower their volume, please, because they're being kind of rude right now. Ryder and Remy, I need you to lower your volume, please. No, you're going to have to be patient for a minute. Thank you. Okay, you can proceed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is... Tammy is not an intelligent person.
Oh, no, I don't think she is anyway, because I can tell by her Facebook page all she cared about was that other, what was his name? I'm sorry. I'm actually physically shaking right now because this is just a very...
Yeah, Anthony,
yes,
is her husband's name. But it's not that she cared about Anthony, right? She cares about attention. It doesn't matter who is giving her that attention, but whoever is giving her the most attention, she's going to take to the top of the totem pole, right? But the moment that you stop giving her that attention, she's going to do everything she can to take you down.
So she's a narcissist, basically. She's...
To an extreme. But I don't even think she has the intelligence to be a narcissist, right? It's more...
No, I see what you're saying.
It's a child's mentality, right? You're my best friend as long as you're here talking to me, but the moment that you walk out of the room, that's it, right? We're not best friends at that moment until you come back.
So how was she with Katelyn when Katelyn was a baby? I've always wondered that. Like when Katelyn was first born.
Well, Katelyn was born on February 20th, and then I was shipped off to basic training March 23rd. Right? So I was gone from basic training through AIT and then airborne school, which took me from March until mid-August. But my grandmother was alive then. And my grandmother really took care of Katelyn.
Okay.
While I was away. But at that point in time, Tammy was getting all the money that she wanted, right? All the money and everything she was getting.
Was she on drugs back
So,
then?
No. No way. My grandmother probably would have killed her.
Yeah.
It's just not something that is acceptable in my family.
So when you say abuse, like, that's, like, if you don't mind clarifying, because...
Well, it's psychological, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's telling your child that their father and nobody on their father's side of the family cares about them, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do that on a daily basis. That's going to tear a child apart.
Oh, yes.
Right? It doesn't matter how shitty a parent is, the child is still going to love the parent, right?
Exactly.
So, Katelyn is going to love Tammy regardless of how shitty Tammy is to Katelyn. Right?
Yeah.
I know Katelyn loved me and my family no matter how much we were demonized, but she never got to be around us after she come to that age of knowing, right? Like, you just hit that around 9, 10 years old where you start seeing the world for what the world is.
Yeah.
Right? No, it's no longer a cartoon anymore.
You can think for yourself and have your own opinions.
Right. But as far back as when she was about 2 years old, I was getting ready to go to Afghanistan and went out to the field for 2 weeks. So how it works in the Army is we do training exercises, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be gone for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, however long it takes.
Okay.
While I was out in the field, one of my battle buddies that worked in our office, him and his wife and their twins were staying at my house on post with Tammy and Katelyn. Well, Tammy one night decides that she's going to go across the street to a party, so she locks Katelyn up in her room and goes over there. About 2 o'clock in the morning, Katelyn wakes my battle buddy and his wife up, screaming at the top of her lungs, banging on the door. So my roommate is looking for Tammy, doesn't know where the hell she's at. So he goes across the street where the party is, and Tammy's fucking some other guy while her child is screaming at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? And then Tammy then goes and tries to deny all of that, even though everybody there had sworn statements saying that this is exactly what happened, right? And that incident was the nail in the coffin for my command. That is when they said, "It, right? He has got to get off his base. That's it." My NCO told me, if you don't separate yourself from her, she's going to ruin your military career. Flat out. Like, this is gonna happen if she doesn't leave. So my chain of command moved me into the barracks and then terminated our on-post housing to make her move back to Georgia. And that was weeks before I went to Afghanistan. Now, before that, I went to Iraq.
Wow.
And the day I got on the plane to go to Iraq, she took my child off with another man that she met on the internet. And then she had the gall to go around and tell everybody that she was just hoping or waiting for me to die in Iraq so she could collect the insurance money. Which $600,000. Of course, she wasn't going to get it because I put it all to my grandmother if something would have happened, but she didn't know that.
Does she have a record, like a criminal?
I mean, I don't think she's ever been seen by a psychiatrist or a psychologist.
See, this is where I get really infuriated, is Katelyn was prescribed Prozac, which I can tell you myself and many other people, when we've taken it, we felt suicidal way more than when we weren't on it. And it's even been proven to make shrimp in the ocean, when they ingest it, they kill themselves. So, I mean, I don't understand.
Well, I didn't have anything to do with that, though. Right? That's what I'm saying. Like, I was kept out of all of that. I didn't know about the suicide attempts until she was hospitalized in November before the incident. Right? I didn't hear about any of that. I didn't hear about the prescription she was on. I was never contacted by any of the authorities or anything. Like, the absurdity of the amount that me and my family were kept out of her life is what really infuriates me. Because this wouldn't have happened.
If it's any, I mean, I've only talked about Tammy and, I'm sorry, what is his name again? Anthony. I've only talked about those two in my videos from what I read on evidence. And when I mentioned you, I just mentioned how you weren't in her life. And obviously I didn't know details. And I just, how have you even been able to, like, how did you even find out? Like, I'm sorry, you don't have to answer any of this. I'm like I said, I'm shaking because I really.
No, I don't have a problem with talking about this, right? Because I think this is something that needs to be corrected so that this doesn't happen again, right? And this is something that can be corrected with the court system.
Yes.
So I didn't even find out until the day after it happened, when Tammy showed up at my house hysterical, right? And I mean, when that happened, I knew immediately, right? Because that sense of dread, it just hits you like a truck. You don't have to hear anything. You already know. And then the same day, the DFAC lady shows up in my house to ask me questions.
Right.
Right? And that really infuriated me.
I understand.
Because they had already investigated her twice. She already failed a drug test with them. Her and her mom.
Then why did she even...
They never once contacted me until after she took her life.
So did Tammy even seem, like, affected? Because I heard she was, like, just went on with her life.
I don't know, because I don't talk to her. I mean, I don't have anything to say to her. You know, I'm brought up to an extent of, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, type of thing. And I don't have anything nice to say to her at all.
Right. What would you, like, with the...
She drugged me through the mud. She drugged me through the mud for years and years.
I don't understand how the kids weren't...
I could possibly do to keep that relationship together so that my daughter could grow up with a mom and a dad. I did everything I could possibly do. She cheated on me more times than you have fingers and toes, and I still tried to make it work. She didn't want to be successful. She wanted to be in that fucking trailer. Like, that is the life that she wanted.
I believe it. So why did they not take the kids away?
There's nothing I can do about it, right? And the court system is set up in such a manner that the mother gets whatever the mother wants, right? And the reason I was arrested for non-payment of child support was because I was still on active duty military, but I wasn't getting paid from a legal issue between me and the Army that wasn't settled for 2 years. So I couldn't get a job because I was still active duty military. Yeah, I wasn't getting any income. And child support doesn't care. They don't care so much that when I was down there explaining to them the situation, I was told to sell drugs to pay child support.
By whom?
Yeah, that's right. A government agency is telling me to break the law and sell drugs to pay child support.
And you know what? I believe you because somebody I know, I'm not going to name, who has a child, he was actually working for my previous hometown's local police department selling drugs. They did the same thing to him, except he was a drug addict, so he did it. But
yeah, well, I mean, that's just not something I'm going to do. I'm not going to do it.
So I totally agree with you. What do you think would be? I don't even know where to begin with the system changing what they do, but I agree with you because when I was Katelyn's age, exactly her age, I was living with a guy's mom. I met a woman in Walmart who let me live with her, and I started dating her 19-year-old son, and my mom had the nerve to still try to demand child support from my dad, who was like, he was unlisted somewhere in Mississippi, and she had kept me from him my whole life. And so, yeah, I understand what you mean about the system because they went after my dad, and my mom wasn't even taking care of me. So,
well, I mean, here's the thing about child support. It's a state-by-state thing, right? And in no other state is child support a pick-upable warrant, right? So if I owe child support in Georgia and I live in Alabama, they can't arrest me in Alabama and then take me to Georgia. I can't do it because it's not a crime to not pay child support.
I didn't know that.
That's a civil matter, right? It's like if somebody sues you, if you don't pay them, you're not going to jail.
Right.
Right. Now the government has means to, take money out of your bank account or whatever, right? But you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. So if there's nothing there, they can't get anything. But the reason that people go to jail for child support is the court order. Right. You have disobeyed a court order to do something. So you're not actually going to jail for not paying the child support per se, as you're going to jail for disobeying the order of the judge.
Right.
But for me, the easiest way to handle these situations is if the custodial parent walks into a courtroom and says they need money to raise a child, you take the child away from them. That's it.
Right.
I mean, if you can't afford to raise the child, you don't need to be raising the child.
I agree.
You see cases all the time where fathers pay child support, but the mothers never even cash checks.
I was in the women's shelter recently, and many of the mothers who were in there were neglecting and abusing their children, not physically abusing them, but just what you said. They were getting child support and they were on food stamps, but they were spending all the child support on like brand new Nike shoes and going out to eat and doing drugs.
Right. Well, what I'm referring to is, it's a small percentage of them, but it's the women who can take care of the children already, right? They have the means to do it.
Yes.
They're not the ones in there asking for child support. Right?
Right.
They're just not. And they get child support, but they don't ever even cash the checks, right? So it's just like a trust fund that's being set up for their child. And they just give all of the child support checks to their child when they turn 18. Right? Because they don't need the money.
I was supposed to. I separated from my husband last year for about 5 months, and I was told by the court that I had to ask my husband for child support. And then since I refused because I didn't need his money, they told me I was being uncooperative, and they had me show up at court because I wasn't going to demand that he give me child support. So I totally understand what you're saying.
Well, that's because there are organizations set up within the government that this is their only job. Right? Their only job is to extract money from the non-custodial parent. So if people like you say, I don't need the money, then you're now the part of the problem for them, right? Because then they don't have a reason to need a job.
Okay. I actually didn't know that, but that makes sense.
Yeah, this is very much true. Well, I guess when you get drugged through the system for 10 plus years, you learn all these things that are just absurd.
So why did they not take the kids away when she failed drug tests? Because when I was at the women's shelter, I had my son and daughter when they both had head lice at the same time. It was easier for me to wash their hair together in the shower rather than have them separate. And their age, they're not far off in age, and they were both, at the time, they were both under 8 years old, so there was really nothing, in my opinion, that was weird about it. I was right there monitoring them anyway, and I actually got in trouble for that and was like threatened to be made to leave if I let them do that again. But yet I've like never even tried a cigarette. So why were the kids allowed to stay with her when she was failing drug tests? I don't understand.
Well, it's probably different when you're living in your own private property, right? But then it's also different depending on the state, because all of these things are different state by state.
Okay.
Right, so each state has its own set of custodial laws, have their own set of child protective service laws, and it's just a state by state.
I see what you're saying now about how I could totally see from your perspective how looking back and realizing that if you had had some interaction with your daughter that Katelyn could be here right now.
Well, I mean, before Tammy went completely off the fucking deep end, we were able to get Katelyn.
Oh.
Before, I guess, she met Anthony, I was able to get Katelyn. I took my sister to her senior prom, 2008-ish. And I went and got Katelyn then. And we went out and took pictures and all that. And she was just ecstatic the whole time. But then, I guess, something happened. She met Anthony, I guess, got into drugs. I don't know.
I have
ideas. After that. It wasn't long after that it all ended. Like, there was nothing, right? So, when I got out of the Army in 2012, I bought Katelyn flat screen TV. I bought her a Nintendo Wii U as soon as they came out. And Tammy and Anthony took them straight to the pawn shop and sold them.
Oh my God. I hear so much like...
For a fraction of what I paid for them.
There's so much defeat in your voice and exhaustion, and you just have a defeated tone to your voice, and my heart breaks for you.
I've been beat to hell. I mean, I fought in 2 wars and just get drugged. I mean, I'm like the most hated fucking person in Western society right now. But I'm a white male that's straight.
Well,
that was in the Army.
I think people like Tammy are more hated with good reason. Everybody wants Tammy. Everybody wants her to be in a lot of trouble. And same with that boyfriend of hers or fiance or whatever he is.
No, they're married.
Oh, okay.
Right, and was she was pregnant. Like, we were still married when she got pregnant by him.
Oh my gosh.
And that's why we ended up getting divorced finally. Because every time that I tried to get a divorce before then, Tammy would come off with this ridiculous shit. Like, oh, I want $1,000 a month in alimony plus child support. And I was like, it's not fucking happening. That is the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard.
Is there anything that we don't know about that deals with who Kate, like, I feel like Anthony said things to Katelyn right before she did what she did. Because he had word for word.
Okay, I won't know anything about that because I wasn't around.
Right.
Right. Well, I wasn't. So the last time that I went over there to see Katelyn, I took them some money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as I was leaving, and I could tell they were filled up then, right? Just because you know when you're looking at somebody if they're on freaking pills.
Yeah.
And I got in my car, and I had my window down, and Anthony come out, and he stuck his head in my window, and he threatened me. He's like, I'll beat the shit out of you and all of this crazy stuff, right? So I rolled his fucking head up in my window. And I told him, if you ever threaten me again, I'll fucking kill you. Just straight up, dude. It's like, I'm not doing this. This is absurd. You don't just fucking come up and threaten somebody like that. But that was it, right? Like, that's the end point. I can no longer go over there to see my child.
Right, he's like the guard dog.
It's going to end up with me going to prison. Right? Because I'm on their property. Regardless if he starts the violence, I'm on their property. And I'm going to defend myself. Like, that's just...
Well, instead of feeling like the most hated man in America, you created a daughter who touched people from all over this planet in a really good way, despite what the tragedy. And you made a beautiful person. And I think it was a wake-up call to many. And you're actually not, I don't think you're as hated as you think. I don't notice it anyway. People want Tammy and Anthony to be...
Well, I'm not saying I'm hated over this, right? Okay. Again, it's why I'm saying I don't care about my name being cleared for any of this. People are going to think what they think, regardless of what I had to say anyway.
Right.
Right. I say I'm the most hated man in Western civilization right now is because, again, I am the white male that's straight, right? I'm the oppressor in civilization's eyes right now. Like, I'm just the bad guy.
Like, you're seen as a white supremacist automatically. Is what you're saying?
I'm sure my accent does a lot for that, but
well,
you know.
I'm from Tennessee, so I understand. I'm in Minnesota now, so I've lost a lot of it, but people up here automatically think bad things sometimes too if they hear my accent.
But yeah, I mean, I can't get a job because of the bullshit the Army pulled. My life is pretty shit, right? There's just no getting around it. It's just shit.
Shouldn't you be able to get on disability for being in the, I feel like you're in the tragedy also.
Yeah, but I'm not that person. Or I'm not that person that goes out and asks other people for money. Like, it's not me. That's why I didn't start a GoFundMe. I didn't do any of that, right? Tammy did.
Oh, I know she did.
She started the GoFundMe for the fucking tombstone that I did. I did the tombstone.
Hmm.
I didn't pay for all of it, but the way I set it up was people could donate straight to the monument place, right? Because I
Yeah.
didn't want to touch the money. Like I'm not. I don't want that. I don't want people thinking that I'm trying to capitalize on this tragedy.
Right.
Right? I'm not asking people to freaking support me.
And I commend you
Right?
for that.
Right? Like I'm not producing anything, so no, it's just not. I don't have it in me.
Does Tammy still live in the trailer?
Do what?
Is Tammy still in that trailer?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. But I mean that is really even more of the tragedy is that I live in a freaking 5-bedroom, 3-bath house that's owned by my grandfather. That is less than 1.5 miles away from that trailer.
Do you think Tammy was jealous of Katelyn?
I'm sure.
I think
Again,
so.
like I said, she has the child mentality, right? So if you have 2 children and you show one child a lot more attention than you do the other child is going to get really pissed off.
Right.
Right? And I mean, that's the same thing with Tammy. It just...
Because my mom didn't want me to contact my dad, and when she found out when I was in like the 6th grade that I was trying to find him on the internet, she literally, I had no shoes on or anything, and made me get out of her house. And that had a lot to do with my homelessness and stuff. And I think it was a jealousy thing. So I'm just wondering if Tammy was like that also.
Right. And see, and this is why it would, I don't know if you've talked to your dad.
I've tried, but I think he's too, I don't know what the deal is. I don't know.
But women hold a power in the United States that is absurd, right? There's a tendency for most people to just listen to a woman and believe what she's saying. As if to say, there's no such thing as a bad woman.
I think when it comes to like parenting, yeah, that's true. I think in the world of politics, I don't think that's true, but I do think when it comes to parenting, that's true.
Well, yeah, in the realm of politics, you got a whole other side that's just not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
Right. If it was up to Hillary Clinton, you would just listen and believe her. Right. And there's don't worry about fact checking me. You're just going to believe what I say. Right.
Well.
So there is that, but when you look at the court systems, right, women that commit the same crime as men do, they get punished a lot less severely. And then you get to the custodial side, and it is absurd. It's like 95+% women.
Yeah, I think it's outdated because back in the old days they had it like that because like the majority of dads, or not the majority of dads, but the majority of cases where a parent was absent, it was usually the dad. But nowadays,
Well, that's because the dad used to work, right? Back then, women didn't really go get jobs. They took care of kids.
yeah.
So if the dad is always at work and the mother is always at home, kind of makes sense, right? To have the kids with the parents that's at home.
Yeah.
But it's not the case anymore.
When's the last time you got to talk to Katelyn?
The last time that I talked to Katelyn was the spring of last year when Tammy had her call me and invite me to a father-daughter dance that didn't exist to try to extort more money out of me.
Oh my goodness.
Right. So again, just another infuriating thing. I can't imagine the malice that it takes to put your child up to doing something like that. And then turn around and try to blame it on the child. As if that was Katelyn's idea to do that.
That's sick. Yeah. Well, you know, you had no control over any of that, so don't feel guilty for that.
Well, I feel guilty to the extent of I told myself when Katelyn got 16, 17 years old, she's far more intelligent than both of them, and she's going to know that they're fucking lying. Right? And then she can make her own decision. Then she can go to the judge and say, I'm not living with those fucking people.
Yeah.
Right? I severely miscalculated how terrible of a situation that she was put in.
I think you trusted the government to do the right thing, because I think that's what my dad did. Because when I reached out to my dad online and I said I'm homeless, blah 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 blah, he was like shocked that my mom would put me in a situation like that. Like, he was shocked. And yeah, so I think you just trusted the government or something. I don't know.
Well, I trusted the government to the extent of if it got that bad, that they would do something about it. Right? At the very least, contact me and say, hey, this is what's going on. But nothing. I didn't get anything. So much to the extent that she overdosed at school a month prior, and then the assistant superintendent of that school district come out and said the school system had no idea what was going on. The school called 911 and had an ambulance come pick her up from the school because she overdosed at school. And then they turn around and act like they didn't know anything was going on.
Was it on her medication?
I don't know exactly. I don't know what she overdosed on. Again, I was kept out of everything. So all of those details were kept from me and my family.
That's something else that needs to change with the system, is they need to stop giving children who are in abusive environments pills. Because Katelyn was not the problem. It was Tammy and Anthony.
Yeah. Well, again, I wouldn't have let it happen. Right. If I was informed of the situation at all, I would have told the doctor, you're not giving her that shit. You're not giving her that. You're not giving her Ritalin. You're not giving her fucking Adderall. You're not giving her anything.
Right.
It's a child. Her brain's still fucking developing.
Exactly.
You're trying to give her fucking chemicals to stop her brain from developing.
Exactly. And she's a smart girl. She's super smart.
Yeah, well, she got that from her father.
I believe you, from what I've seen.
But that is why I was banking on, by the time she got to 16 or 17, that it would be it for Tammy. Like, that would just be it.
So you were like holding out hope that when Katelyn was old enough to think for herself, that she would like seek you out and y'all would have a relationship.
Well, she didn't even have to seek me out. Again, we lived less than a mile and a half away.
Oh, that's right.
But it's a psychological game, right? I compare these situations, right? They're micro situations. They're a family, right? But if you looked at it at a macro situation, it's like living in North Korea, where Kim Jong-un is your father.
That's a good metaphor. Yeah.
Most North Koreans don't want to live there. They don't want to worship that man. They don't want anything to do with it. But the moment they step out of line, they put themselves in severe danger, right?
Right.
And it's the same situation when you're talking about kids.
And
But worse.
they're brainwashed.
It's worse because she does love her mother, and she doesn't want to hurt her mother. But then at the same time, she also doesn't want to be treated that way. So what can she do? Right? That's where the government has to step in. If you're not going to let the father do it, you've got to do it.
Exactly.
Right? I promise you, if the fucking sheriff's department would have called me and said, hey, you got 30 minutes to go over there and do whatever, we won't do anything to you, I would have went over there. None of this would have happened.
I wish Katelyn knew that how much you had loved her, because she really did say with conviction, that my own dad doesn't even care about me. He saw me, and I'm sure Tammy was the one who told her all of this. And,
she was told that every day. We know that for a fact. And it wasn't just me, it was my whole family. Right? She was told this about my entire family. Again, there's nothing we can do, right? It's not like we could take her out and buy her stuff. Well, we couldn't take her out, period, right? Tammy wouldn't let it happen. But if we went and bought her stuff, they'd just go sell it. So, Katelyn isn't seeing anything coming from us, right? And I was never arrested again for not paying child support after that. Well, 2 times they picked me up, but that's only because child support's stupid as shit. Like, I paid the child support, but they didn't register it in their system or whatever, so they come pick me up. So I had to spend a day in jail, and then an apology with, oh yeah, sorry, we see that you paid it, but our bad.
Yeah.
But that was it, right?
I'm glad that you cleared that up, because I did see her mugshot online, and I had no idea what it was for. So.
But, yeah, so, if you tell somebody something for long enough, they're going to eventually start believing it, right? Especially when they don't understand the circumstance surrounding what they're being told.
Especially a child.
Right. So it's not, it was never that I didn't want to be there. It was never that I didn't want to take care of her. It was quite simply that I wasn't willing to kowtow to Tammy, right, which would have been indicative to me of supporting that entire family just to see my child. Well, I don't have the means to do it. Like, I just don't have the means to support an entire family and pay child support.
Yeah. What was like the most abusive thing you remember Tammy doing? I'm curious.
Well, I mean, the locking your 2-year-old child up in a room and going across the street to fuck somebody is pretty abusive.
Yeah.
Putting her up to calling her dad and asking him to take her to a father-daughter dance don't exist, just to try to extort more money out of him. I don't know. All I can reference are things that she did directly to me.
Right.
Obviously, if I would have known anything else, I don't know. I don't know if the sheriff department could have stopped me from going in there, and I'd have killed him. I probably would have killed him.
Yeah. Well, what is the best memory that you have of Katelyn?
Probably Christmas. Was the Christmas that we got snow, which is extremely rare in Georgia.
How old was she?
10, 9 or 10. It was like right there on the edge before Tammy, went off the deep end.
Yeah.
Or completely off the deep end. I guess she was always off the deep end, but I guess she felt like as long as we could get Katelyn, that she was always going to have that money flow as much as she wanted. Which is another thing, right? My family could have easily paid the child support. But they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, their whole thing on it was, we're not giving Tammy money, period. We don't care. We'll buy Katelyn's clothes, we'll buy her food, we're not giving her money. So yeah, I mean, my own family that had money to pay it let me sit in jail for money.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Well, I mean, I don't blame them. Everybody around here knows Tammy, right?
Like in the neighborhood, or?
Well, it's just more like a community that's spread out. But yeah, I mean, everybody that knows Tammy down here knows Tammy, right? There is no delusion of thinking that she's ever a victim in anything.
Oh, okay.
She's always the perpetrator that then plays the victim after something bad happens.
How old was Katelyn when she first started getting Katelyn to watch the younger siblings all day? Like, do you know when that started?
I don't know when that started, but I can guess why. Again, Tammy wants attention. That's it. She doesn't care who she gets it from. So, my sister said something to me about in one of the videos. Katelyn was talking about all the guys that Tammy brings in and out of the fucking trailer.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm just like, yeah. I mean, that's normal behavior for Tammy. That's normal behavior.
Hello? Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I think what really pisses me off about all this mostly is the fact that Tammy and her family are trying to capitalize on this money-wise. I know for a fact they've set up at least 2 GoFundMes. One GoFundMe was for the tombstone that they didn't have any hand in doing, right? I did the tombstone. But then they set up a GoFundMe for it. Don't know why, because I told them I already had it handled. They tried to lock me out of having anything to do with the funeral. So much so that there were 10 death certificates. I was supposed to get 5. Tammy was supposed to get 5. I didn't get any. She got all 10.
I'm going to try to find connections for you that deal with starting a foundation for fathers who are ghosted from their children's lives. Because I feel like you would be a very strong voice in that. I feel like you would be a huge voice in that, and yeah, I'm going to try to find connections.
I mean, again, that you know that in 1960, only 25% of the African American kids born were born to a single mother. 25%.
I
You know
didn't
what
know
it is
that.
now? Almost 80%. It was 25% before the Civil Rights Movement, and it's almost 80% now.
I also blame that on thug culture too, though.
Yeah, but the thug culture is brought on by the telling mothers that if they just have children, they're going to get paid for it, right? Oh, but you can't have a man in the household.
Right. Yeah.
Right? It's just a straight demonization of men. So even the white population, the single parent household, has more than tripled since the 60s.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also too feminist movement, because a lot of feminists are against stay-at-home mothers, which I don't understand.
Oh, of course,
that.
but they're the ones. The feminists are the ones that push that social services, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the moment that you, as a woman, step out of line, then you're getting demonized, right? I mean, we've seen it at the Women's March. The pro-life women were shut out of the Women's March.
Whenever I'd tell people that I wasn't going to ask my husband for child support, they would berate me and tell me that I was letting him be a deadbeat. And it made no sense because I didn't need his money. And I don't
see how he's a deadbeat if he's going to be in their life. And, he's still going to buy them stuff. It doesn't make any sense, right? When a rational person steps back and looks at it, this doesn't make any sense, right? But then to go even further is to say, oh, well, he's not paying child support, put him in jail. Well, how much child support is he going to pay in jail?
Yeah. I think that's for the government, because they're obsessed with money.
Now you're not even alleviating the problem, you're doubling the problem. Because now he's not paying child support, and taxpayers have to pay to keep him in jail.
Right. I feel like the children should have to be aware of all of these legalities. When children aren't allowed to see their father, I think the court should have to go out of their way to explain to the children involved why they're not seeing their dad, so they understand what the reason is. Because I grew up like Katelyn, thinking that my dad was willfully ignoring me when my mom was throwing away letters that were coming, and I grew up thinking he hated me.
Right.
So I feel
that's why I said I don't know if you talked to your dad, right?
Well,
because I think you need the perspective of what he was told, right? Because, I mean, it's very likely, I'm not saying that this is the case, right? But it is likely that, he was served with a freaking warrant that pretty much said, don't contact your daughter or you're going to jail.
He might have been. I know that when I found him online, though, when I was, this was when I was living with that guy, when I was still in my teens, and I asked him if it's true about all this, about him making sexual advances on my older sister and my aunt and my cousin, and he admitted to it. And then he actually tried to justify it by saying that my mother didn't give him sexual attention and that he was drunk.
So, see, now you're getting off on something that
yeah. So he called me a bitch.
Beyond me. If that's the case, then you're better off than never.
Right.
Anything to do with you, right?
So both of my parents.
You're talking about somebody that is really a criminal. It's not a deadbeat dad. It's just fucking criminal.
But I still feel like my mom should have at least. He admitted it was, effed up. But he did end up telling me, he ended up blocking me, actually, because he said I was being a bitch like my mom. But he's an alcoholic, though, so that's different.
Well, I can't condone any of that, so I wouldn't. But what I was saying is these things are feasible.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really easy to get a protective order, restraining order against somebody if you're a woman, right? Because there's no burden of proof in those kangaroo courts, right? Which is what they are. Everything's subjective. Oh, so you say there's a chance he could hit you with something. All right, that's all we need. That's it. Can't talk to him. Can't be around him. Just crazy shit. And there's several times that Tammy threatened to kill herself when we were together because she wasn't getting her way. She was violent with me.
Did Katelyn ever witness that? Did Katelyn witness her mother threatening to kill herself?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I'm sure she witnessed it in the trailer more than anything. Yeah, Tammy doesn't care, right? Katelyn to Tammy was just a tool to get more. To get more attention, to get more money. She's just a terrible human being. There's no getting around it. She's just a terrible human being.
It sounds like it. Did she grow up spoiled? Because she sounds like she thinks she's entitled.
No, she grew up in that same trailer. With what I would say was a psychological abusive dad and mom, really. But they lived on the government, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, her dad got into an accident before she was born and got his leg cut off at the knee in a factory or something. He got a large settlement for that. He bought that trailer and that land and then lived on disability for the rest of his life. Until he killed himself in that trailer.
He killed himself?
Supposedly. He supposedly shot himself with a shotgun in the bed while her mother was laying right beside him. Right. I think his mother fucking shot him. That's what I always thought from the very get-go.
What kind of psychiatrist... this makes me even angrier because it's been proven now scientifically that suicide can be genetic also, like if you have a proclivity to committing suicide. And Prozac is the top medication for having that reaction. So, I don't know what kind of doctor. She was probably going to a government doctor, I assume, that accepted, state funded insurance. I'm guessing, because that's how I was getting all these prescriptions at Katelyn's age that were ridiculous, that were unnecessary and dangerous.
Yeah, well, the doctors also get paid by those companies.
Right.
To prescribe those drugs, right? So
when they were trying to push me away from my husband, they were trying to force me to put my son on something that right now has so many lawsuits on television because of how dangerous it is. It's called Risperidol. And they were threatening me that I needed to put my son on it. They were trying to, it was insane. So I know what you mean. And it's because they make money off of it.
Yeah. Well, when I was a young buck in elementary school, they tried to put me on Adderall, and I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't take it.
Well, they did put me on it when I was 18, and it really effed me up. I feel like it took 3 years after getting off of it for me to get back to normal.
Yeah. Well, they were just like, he's hyperactive. I'm like, yeah, I'm a fucking boy. I don't know what you think a boy is. Yeah, I want to be outside running around, playing in the dirt.
Right.
Like almost every other boy. And I wouldn't take it.
ADD is just, it's a hot word. It's just, it was made up.
Made up. It's just fucking made up. That's all it is.
It's
made up. Oh my goodness! Look at these boys that are running around doing things, and the few girls, because there are girls that, well, we used to call them tomboys. I guess that's offensive to people now, but they exist, right? But it's not unnatural.
Right.
Puppies have a lot more energy than grown-ass dogs, right? You don't say, damn, those puppies got ADD.
Exactly. It's part of it's being a mammal, and we're mammals. And it's actually a sign of health. If you're easily distracted and you're always in deep thought and you're hyperactive, that's actually a sign of being a healthy child. They want to put you on things like Adderall or risperidone or something that's going to numb your brain, and it's actually going to teach the child that they have to pop a pill in order to be, quote, normal, which is giving the child a complex that they need to self-medicate, which is, subconsciously teaching them they need to be on something, on a substance. It's just a whole sick...
Yeah, well, my cousins were put on Adderall in, like, middle school or something, and now they can't fucking function without it.
Right. Because our bodies are like machines.
Yeah, I can't function without it. And I'm just like, man, this is the most ridiculous fucking shit I've ever seen in my life. And then their mom is now addicted to fucking tramadols, right? Because that's an opioid, and they just handing those things out like candy.
I'm sorry for the awkward silence. I'm just...
It's alright. I'm debating on whether to go get some more coffee. My coffee cup.
Okay. I actually don't talk on the phone ever to anyone, so...
I don't either. That's, I don't really talk to a whole lot of people, period. Just,
yeah.
My life has been pretty terrible for a long time. And then just consistently it gets worse. For whatever reason. I feel like I'm living Job's life from the Bible. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes.
I'm not religious, but I study the Bible.
Belle, stop. Sorry, my puppy's being really loud behind me with a toy. I'm listening. Well, I mean, that would make you... you're going through certainly more challenges than the average person. I really hope I haven't made you feel judged or upset or attacked or interrogated or anything negative, because that's not my...
Oh, no. See, I am probably the hardest person on this planet to offend in any way. Outside of threatening me with violence. I don't get offended by words. I prefer the interrogation, right? It's the only way you can get real information.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I don't like when there's so little information out there, and then people just start drawing lines to all kinds of crazy ass conclusions. That, it's almost like, what is the worst way this could have went down? That's got to be the way it happened. No, like,
I can see why you would want to come out and talk, because if you were to die tomorrow, I know that you wouldn't want people's assumptions of you to be that you didn't care about your daughter and that you were, just in the same category as Tammy.
Well, I mean, again, people are gonna think whatever. Like that, I don't think I would be able to say anything to somebody who already thinks that to change their mind.
Well, you changed mine.
Right.
I mean, I initially did think, I just assumed that you were probably like my dad. And because even though my mom did keep him out of my life, when I did reach out to him, he could have been understanding of why I was angry at him, and he just decided to block me. So,
but he also did some criminal shit.
that he blames on alcohol.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing with criminals. They always blame somebody else.
If you had to describe Katelyn in one word, how would you describe her? What you knew of Katelyn?
In one word,
or is it whatever? Sorry?
Intelligent.
That is, I would agree.
In two words, it would, or hold on. three words, I would say, first Madam President. I was intelligent enough that she could have pulled that off.
I agree. I think so many people thought she was older because of how she articulated and because she was so intelligent. Who did she get her eyes from? Because she just had the prettiest eyes I've ever seen in my life.
Me.
I don't see much of her in Tammy.
There wasn't a lot of Tammy in her at all. Not other than the hair.
Yeah.
Her natural hair. I didn't know anything about the black hair or makeup or any of that.
Did my number show up when I called you? You can reach out to me anytime, and because I feel honored to be able to talk to somebody that is that close to Katelyn.
You can, I mean, like I said, you have free reign. Yeah, well, again, it's like, I'm reaching out to all of what I would consider at least closely rational people that put out videos on Katelyn. Right now, of course, I'm not reaching out to those fringes that it's just going to be a waste of my time and theirs if they even respond, because they have it dead set in their mind what happened, even though they don't have any real evidence of anything. And this might sound bad, but Katelyn was still a child, so she made claims that, as far as we know, are unfounded.
I know that
there's no proof of this stuff. So
there's proof that she was neglected by her mom. There's proof that she was prescribed Prozac, which was absurd. There's proof that she was abused by her mother in every way possible except physical, and I don't know about that either. I mean, there's proof that she had access to an online world that she should have had monitored. There's proof that she was suffering.
Right. I'm not talking about those things like the sexual assaults or whatnot. I mean, I had the autopsy report, but I'm not sharing that on the internet for obvious reasons. Plus, because there's still a criminal investigation going on. But again, Carl Sagan said, if you make an extraordinary claim, it requires extraordinary evidence.
I think most of her claims, though, were backed up by evidence. I mean...
Well, a lot of them were. But you can't say because she made these claims that were backed up, then all the claims are backed up.
No, but I feel like enough of her claims...
And I mean, it's my daughter, believe me, I want to believe all of it. I didn't watch the videos, I'm only getting secondhand information of what she actually said. But I wouldn't go on the internet and say Anthony Rogers is a child molester.
I've never said that myself, but I have said that he got on her Facebook page after she had taken her own life and was posting on her name, which I felt like was disturbing on many levels, and that he intruded into her room multiple times on video without even knocking first. She could have been changing her clothes. I mean, there are many things that I can't think of off the top of my head right now, but that led me to believe that...
No, look, he's a fucking piece of shit at the highest level of piece of shit, right? I'm not defending them in any way. But like everything else, I have to let due process play itself out.
Well, do you think the truth prevails?
I start throwing things around, right? And the due process in this situation is the criminal investigation.
Do you think the truth is going to prevail?
I'm doing everything I can to ensure that the truth prevails.
Stop that.
Now, again, so if I feel like the criminal investigation didn't go far enough or they didn't do enough, then I'll raise that concern when that time comes. I believe me, I have to fight this with my family a lot, right? I have to let I have to let people fail. I have to let them make the mistakes before I try to correct the mistakes, if that makes sense, right? It's like, I can't tell somebody they're doing something wrong if they haven't done anything wrong yet.
Yeah. Well, I know you said that you couldn't release anything about her autopsy, and that's hard to even say that word, but would you, I mean, would you
Well,
say
it's not that I can't, it's that I'm not going to.
would you say it's compelling? Like, is it damning at all, or is it just, like, does it confirm anything you were worried about, or?
Well, I mean, there's things in there that bring up questions, for sure.
Well, I hope that that's investigated then.
Oh, well, it is. I mean, that's the thing, right? So the investigation is still very much ongoing.
Is it through Polk County? Because I heard they have a horrible reputation when it comes to this type of investigating.
What the main investigation is Polk County, yes, but a lot of the autopsy and the toxicology and all of that went through the GBI, and the GBI agent is in touch with the investigator or the detective that's doing the investigation from Polk County. And like I said, I've talked to the detective a couple of times, one time in person at length. So,
well, I'm glad to know that it's still ongoing, cause, and I don't think many people know that. I check for updates every day online.
well, I mean, because, like I said at the beginning of the conversation, because of the amount of crimes that were likely committed in that trailer is going to lengthen the investigation. Because every crime that the investigation uncovers is another crime that then has to be investigated.
Right.
So they're not going. The detective doesn't say, "Oh well, we have evidence. Here's the evidence for this crime," and hands it to the DA. Right? That's not how it happens. They say, "Here are all of the crimes that we investigated. Here's all the evidence for all the crimes we investigated," and then the DA's office will go through all of them, and whatever they feel like they can get a conviction on, they will charge them with.
That makes sense because in a court, it seems like in trials they always have separate individual charges, so that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times they'll throw in more charges than they think they can get convictions on, just to get the convictions on the charges that they want.
Yeah.
Right, so if you have like, oh, this guy charged with armed robbery, and then also with having a weapon, even though that's literally you have to for an armed robbery, right? But then he also has the weapons charge, and he also has drug charges. But then when you look at the conviction, you'll see like the drug charges got dropped.
Yeah.
Right, and the reason they got dropped is because they got the conviction that they wanted, or the plea bargain that they wanted. So it's not necessary anymore.
Right. Is there anything specific that you want me to know or anybody else to know, or?
Not really. I mean, again, you have free reign to put out whatever you want. You obviously let people know that the investigation is still ongoing, that's not been forgot about, but then everything else is to your discretion. So.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be respectful. I'm certainly going to be informative because it's a lot of information. And just to end it on a happy note, like just something silly and fluff, kind of like what was Katelyn's like favorite food? Like I'm just trying to think of favorite things that Katelyn.
Oh, I don't know that.
Or like what did she love? Like when you look back, even if it was when she was like 10.
I mean, she loved being around us. I think that, you know, she could be a child, and she could be what she wanted to be when she was around us. You know, there was no forcing of adult things on her when she was around us, for sure. And when I say us, I mean me and my family.
Yeah. Did she prefer like doing things like outside, like fishing or bike riding, or was she more of like an artistic? Because I noticed she really liked to sing, and I'm wondering like if she was Always.
Well, she did like to sing. Yeah, I guess, well, I like to sing. I'm terrible at it. Can't carry a tune in a bucket. I do it when I'm by myself. But
Because that girl, she was writing songs off the top of her head, and if she had just had studio access, because of how beautiful she was and charismatic, I think that she easily could have been signed. She was just a little ball of talent.
yeah, it hurts. She liked to be outside. But I mean, it's hard for me to quantify what she loved the most or anything like that when I didn't get to spend enough time with her to learn these things.
Right. Well, I appreciate you saying that rather than supplying just whatever you think sounds good.
Right. Well, again, I mean, I have documents and anything that you need to verify information, I can get you. I mean, I still have the sworn statements from Fort Bragg where she was a fucking terrible person then. Yes, I mean, just whatever you need, I can send you a redacted version of my DD-214, where I take my social off and stuff.
Oh, I trust the source, and I saw your military ID, and it's, I mean, legit. So, and I think Katelyn looks
and that
just
was
like
actually an older one. That's when they were trying to screw me, knock me down to private. I got out as an E4 with an honorable discharge, which would be on my DD-214 if needed.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, you have free reign. I believe that you'll make a good video. I didn't disagree or dislike anything that you said. But so when you go to make videos, if you have any questions, you feel free to contact me anytime.
I'll add you on Facebook. I don't know if you have a Facebook, but that's what I'm mostly active on because I don't have a Twitter.
Well, I mean, I have a Facebook. I don't get on it. I use the Messenger some, but yeah, I mean, I got so many freaking friend requests and messages from, the world, basically. And I don't want to deal with, I don't know. I'm kind of weird. I don't care to hear people say how sorry they are so much, I just feel like you're virtue signaling, right? It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
You didn't care beforehand, so now you care now, and what am I supposed to say to that? Like, thank you for caring after my daughter's dead?
Right. Right. Well, because humans are all about sensationalism,
Right. Well, I had seen a meme that just said it perfectly. It was like a Facebook post, somebody saying happy birthday on somebody's thing, and then the meme was, what I'm really saying is, I know it's your birthday, but notice me.
Right. That's accurate.
Yeah, I'm just like, I just don't care about it, right? You and other YouTubers are different. You've made a product, right? And you made a product that's now going to be on the internet forever.
Well, it was impulsive,
but you did something. You didn't just say, yeah, I'm sorry that happened. Have a good day.
Because I didn't feel like justice has been served. I mean, not that it can ever be in this situation, because Katelyn's always going to be gone, but I'm saying, with the abuse.
Right. But with you making a video, you furthered the conversation.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if you send me a message on Facebook and just say, yep, sorry for what happened, you're not furthering the conversation, and you want me to acknowledge that you're a good person.
Right. It's for a pat on the back. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't care for that. But you can add me on Facebook. I just don't get on there very much. But the last thing I posted on Facebook was a picture of me and Katelyn.
Oh, well, I'd love to see that.
the day or day after I found out. Well, I'm also, if you want, I don't know if you do any live streams or anything.
I do on you now sometimes.
Comfortable with that.
Yeah,
Breaking up.
I'm sorry. I have a problem with interrupting. That's like why I don't talk on the phone much, because like I really don't have good like back and forth discourse skills. But so I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Just because I feel like I'm gonna forget what I'm gonna say, so I just like vomit it out.
Yeah, well, it's not a problem.
Okay. But I'm going to make dinner for the family, and I'm going to keep you updated on when I put your information out there and let people know what's your side of what's, or not your side. I mean, that makes it sound like it's just a bunch of claims about the truth that you put out there. So, well, thank you for being so open, and I really appreciate you talking to me.
Like I said, I don't have a problem with talking about things. I prefer it. I prefer to talk about them than just to have a bunch of thoughts running around everywhere that aren't based in reality.
Yeah.
Well, you have a good night.
You too. I will talk to you again, I'm sure.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Matthew.